preparing to Zoom.
True.
What, that you're preparing to Zoom?
No, I said you. That's what I think. Oh, it was a few days ago.
Oh, I don't know, now I can't remember.
Where did that word come
Oh,
from?
thank you, I
Anyway,
do remember.
do you know? Zoom, where the word Zoom came from?
Oh, for the
The word.
oh, I don't know. And, okay, so we're gonna call the meeting to order. It's 3:03, is that right? And for the Block Island Coastal Resilience Committee. And the first thing, Laurel, can you move the camera so that it's looking at us? Because we don't really need to be looking at the screen today, I don't think. There we go. That's much better. Thank you. So our first order of business is public input. So for our two members of the public who are here, is there anything that you would like to present to this committee? Oh gosh, Carlos is thinking I better move on. No. Oh, here he comes. Okay, Carlos.
Madam Chair, this is directed towards you. I'm a little worried about how the island might be impacted given the decimation of NOAA in these times. So, for instance, I learned that the deployment of several weather balloons was stopped because of lack of funding, and that there are a lot of weather forecasters that are no longer there. That smaller storms will be much harder to predict because of a lack of staff. And so I'm wondering from your vantage point and your experience, what you think those impacts may be on the island and how we might best prepare for them.
Thank you. So as a retired NOAA meteorologist, I am just barely qualified to answer that question. So there's already studies being done to try and show the degradation of the models because less data is being input. There's one study that showed that the GFS, the American model, was being impacted. However, we can't say that it was just the balloons that were doing it or the data, because the European model uses the same data, and there was no degradation for the European model, or for, I think they use the UK Met also. So, so there are studies going on right now to prove or disprove, which is a really good sensitivity study for us. NOAA's always afraid to stop doing something because of potential impact and for how much time they spend in litigation when things get closed down. They're very shy of closing stuff down, but this is a forced sensitivity study on how much data do we really need. The one thing I will say is that individual communities depend on sensors. For example, the Northeast Regional Association of Coastal Ocean Observing Systems, NERACOOS, NERACOOS, is the part of NOAA that put the optical water sensor in Old Harbor for us. And they serve up that data, and it's become part of their regional observing system of water levels that are used by the USGS and a whole bunch of other government entities, including NOAA. So, so there's like little local things that are important to the local communities that are different than the national forecast. The other thing I'll say is that the forecast that you get today, the 10-day forecast that you get today, is about the same reliability as the 2-day forecast was when I started with NOAA in the 1970s. So what we will see is a degradation back to, the quality of forecasts, from decades ago, potentially. That's in my opinion, the biggest degradation is the loss of people. the people who are the experts in how to do this, how to interpret data. The NOAA forecasts are the basis for all other forecasts that are put out. AccuWeather can say that they do their own forecasts, but they don't collect their own data, and they do rely on NOAA. And I hope they're screaming Mimi's on the hill right now because of that. The Weather Channel, I hope they're on our side because they can't do it without NOAA. So, yeah, so I think there's a lot of concern across the nation, and you are not alone in this. So write your congressman or whatever you do to make, to try to affect the change that you want to see. I mean, in the agenda today are 2 letters that I've been suggested that come from the town. And I've certainly written letters myself. So thank you very much. Please do.
Are there any trigger points that you can imagine that we should be looking for in terms of the impact locally, in terms of forecasts? Like if such and such happens, then we need to be doubly vigilant or?
Oh, yeah, certainly. So if any storm, whether it's a nor'easter or a hurricane or whatever, any storm that passes to the west of us, like goes up into New York or New Jersey or Connecticut, we get the right front quadrant of that storm, and that's when we have the most impact. So you can watch the storm paths. It's when they come up from the south and go between us and New Jersey that's when we get the biggest impact here, whatever storms they are. Like Sandy, that's correct. And yes, and I got that from Brian Oakley, our resident geologist. Anything else from the public? And thank you for that, Carlos. Okay, the next order of business is approval of the minutes from the May 6th meeting for the Coastal Resilience Committee. Can I hear a motion to approve? And second? Okay, in terms of discussion, I have sent to Laurel a couple of grammatical corrections that aren't worth discussing because, they're just spelling errors or whatever. But the one thing that I did add that it was of substance was I listed all of the marshes that were of interest to the marsh scientists so that was recorded in the record. Is there any other discussion of the minutes? Okay, so we have a motion to approve that maybe we can amend to approve with the suggested changes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on, updates from the town council. I don't have anything. Does anyone else? Is Allison with us? Yes, Allison, update from the town planner.
Hi, everyone. Nothing new really. I know most of you in the room were in attendance for the Corneck Road public engagement meeting that was held a couple weeks ago. So that was successful, well attended, and many members of the public did submit surveys, over 100. So we'll have a project team meeting tomorrow morning. So, we'll get more as far as timeline for next steps. But the consultants are in the process of developing the plan. So we'll have an update next meeting. But they did circulate the presentation slides, and they're working on getting the project website up. So I think that will be helpful to keep everyone kind of in the know more quickly as to the status and uploading any documents to that site. So that's good. That's moving along. I have no other updates in regards to grants at this time.
Allison, I have a question for you regarding GCA. It's my understanding that they have to report on the progress of the budget spent so far. Do you have any information on that?
Who, no, but in regards to who are they reporting to? As far as the budget spent, who said that? I don't know where you're getting that.
I don't remember who told me that. Yes,
Okay.
I do. I do. It was Kim Jacobs. She said that they're obligated to give the town an update on how much money they've spent so far. And I don't know if that is quarterly or
Okay. Well, Kim Jacobs is the consultant for the hazard mitigation plan.
Yeah.
So maybe so that's a separate project. So so the town did just receive, well, that is an update this week. The town received FEMA approval of the hazard mitigation plan. So we're just
Yeah.
closing out that grant, and a lot of the hours that staff and volunteers put towards that will be used to satisfy in-kind contributions for that grant. So we're closing that out. And as far as GZA separately, a different grant, a different project, I mean, they do submit invoices to the town regularly. So, I mean, we do know how much has been spent at this point, the town. So, and then, I mean, as far as reporting, I do, I do need to submit reports to the granting agency, and that, there's one due this week, like an interim programmatic report, and that's in regard to metrics, like how many hours of volunteers have been dedicated thus far in the project, and also number of government agencies. These are the metrics that we kind of put forward in a grant application. In a federal grant application, sometimes they want to see these metrics. So anyway, we're getting into the weeds a little bit, but yeah, so there is reporting to the agencies that are providing the funding. And yes, the town's aware of how much, like they've been invoiced as far as how many hours the consultants have spent working towards the project.
Okay, thank you. And then I have
Yep.
a last question. You probably don't have the exact answer. Do you have any rough idea of when GCA's next public meeting will be held?
I think, was it originally planned for this summer? But I don't know if the timelines went back at all, but I think depending on, the input, who they're looking to get the input and scheduling, like I would anticipate, in a couple of months, but tomorrow, I think we'll learn more tomorrow with the meeting.
Oh,
And
okay.
unfortunately, the timing of, I wish we had that project team meeting, like not the day after the committee meetings. Maybe we want to switch that around, but I
Yeah.
think we'll find out tomorrow. We'll ask that question tomorrow. I did ask that, an update on timeline, but we could circulate it. So you don't have to wait a month, we'll circulate that information tomorrow to the committee to keep everyone up to date.
Thanks, Allison.
Yep.
Allison, Judy, can I say?
Please.
Allison, yeah, you're right. After our meeting with them, must have been the public meeting that you were that you referred to, Allison. They did say that they're working on another public stakeholder meeting for the summer, because
Yeah.
Ann had mentioned bringing up again the program that she was proposing and that we lined out and shared with everyone probably a year ago for another meeting with the public, so that it was sort of more hands-on meeting. So we didn't want to leave behind those plans that Ann made. And we were talking to GZA just after the meeting casually when we were all going back to our cars, and they were interested in merging their idea and Ann's idea too, just to get ahead of tomorrow and let you know that, Allison.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So let's see. We got the update on the Block Island Hazard Mitigation Plan, which I guess we can take off of our agenda now because it has been approved. So yeah, I was just working on next month's agenda with the strike through. Okay. Update from the Block Island Coastal Resilience Committee Chair. I guess the only update I have is for anyone who was not present at the May 30th meeting with the Cooperative Institute, Coastal Institute at University of Rhode Island.
That was wishful thinking.
Actually, no, so I rode back on the ferry with them. And I asked again, are we a go with them? And they said yes, that this, they reiterated what they told us at the end, that basically their visit with us was the last step for them to say, yeah, that we're going to go ahead and do this. And so they're going to go, yes. So I'll write a letter of support. And, but right now, they are pretty fully capitalized through the summer. And so they want to reengage in the fall when they have, more time to really put something into it. And so we'll be meeting with Brian Nigel on Tuesday or Thursday or whenever he's coming out for the profiles. So anyway, well, the conversation is continuing. And this is very exciting for us. So I'm really, hope you're all as pleased as I am. It was very impressive. And in fact, one of the ideas I have for the I keep calling it Cooperative Institute, for the Coastal Institute is to, next time they come out here, to get them together with the Director of Public Works, the electric company, the sewer company, and the water company, get all those, get the top folks in a room with them to talk about what their concerns are and where they're, because I think that having the support of that at that level in the town will be really important for us going forward. Because we'll be asking, and we're already asking Mike Shea for favors, like, will you leave a ladder at Town Beach so that we can, stuff like that. And I want to keep them involved since we are asking them for stuff. Anne, go ahead.
So 2 questions. One is, should we have someone be nominated to be the liaison with them, or how do we want to manage that relationship?
I think that is a wonderful idea. And I hope that I'm the one who's nominated to do it.
Second.
I say that is because, as you know, I'm really looking forward to stepping down as chair this year, but this is like what I'd like to do.
Right.
And because I think it's going to be a lot of work in terms of a lot of, things to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And for me, it would just be a transfer of paying a lot of attention to the organizational stuff for this committee and move it over to a
Yeah.
lot of organizational stuff with them. So but if somebody else really wants to do it, has a burning desire, please feel free to step forward, because I think that it'll take more than one person. Ultimately, we're all going to
Yeah.
be involved. It's not, not bilateral. It's multilateral. So, but yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
The
Do-
other question is
go.
what's your sense of the process of getting to kind of what they're going to focus on or where they're going to help us? Do you have a sense of that, or?
Oh, I think that's why I want to have them out to talk to the heads of the different departments, because I want to influence where they're going and what they're thinking about. And I would do that by continuing to involve them in the town's discussions. So.
But maybe could we as a committee kind of come up with some
Oh,
a
absolutely.
subset of ideas to kind of,
Absolutely.
They must have an
explore
agenda.
with them?
Yeah, I mean, it's really worth it. Have you gone to the website and read what they did what they're doing in the other communities? That really
Yeah.
gives you an idea of what they have in mind. I mean, even though the activities are specifically different, you can really get a feeling for their approach and how, and that's what gave me the idea of getting them with the department heads next.
Yeah, it's a good site.
So it's a really good website, but yeah, I think, I don't want to do it as one person. So if we want like a CI working group, that would be fun. I'm not sure, yeah. CI working group.
Could I be so greedy as to ask
Yes.
if you could forward from their website a list of their focuses for this island? Then I can study it.
I think they have it on their website today.
Do you, you know what, come over and we'll go through or I'll get together with you and we'll go through the website together.
So, no.
No, it's not. Oh, no, the Block Island part isn't live at all. No, they're still developing that. We can talk a
Yeah,
little bit
so
more
there's
about
the-
that with
Okay, then
Lenny.
I'll hold off.
Okay, Yeah, okay.
Nora.
Yeah, there's nothing on there now.
Right now, there's nothing there. There's no there. I think that's a great idea to do a CI working group. Any other ideas? Any other? Okay, that was all I had from the chair. From the working, before we get down to the meat of the matter, anything from the working groups?
I can just share, I have nothing concrete to share, but I am going through the documents of Nantucket's plans, and I'm being very focused in what I'm looking for. For example, do I see any suggestions there that could apply to Block Island as well? I'm happy to say that some of the proposals for changing in zoning regulations were the ones that I was kind of pushing for right from the start. Ultimately, when the ordinance committee comes up with suggestions for the town, one of the first questions I anticipate receiving from the town council is, well, what are other communities doing? Nantucket is an ideal study for us because they are in serious shape. And so we can learn from their successes and failures as we go. Now, I understand from Judy why it's important that they have all these documents. I get kind of bored, frankly, with going through document after document. But one of the reasons is, if I remember Judy correctly, is because it will help the island get grant money, funding. But
Yeah, they don't want to fund stuff that isn't in your plan.
So-
It needs to show up in your plans
Yeah,
before they'll fund it.
yeah. Now, they too, just like Vinyl Haven, have much more information online regarding educating the public about climate change and sea level rise. So that was an interesting observation for me. But being on the ordinance committee, I'm focused on, well, what ordinances can we change? So my focus is a little bit more specific.
And maybe just to follow up on the ordinance, because we had a meeting right after our last committee meeting. And it was me, Sosha, Nora, and Allison. We just the four. Mary, were you? Where's
No.
Mary? No, okay. So we talked really about higher level objectives for the ordinance revisions and looked at what Glennie had done and kind of came up with a somewhat modified set of objectives, realizing that some of what she proposed was sort of more updating references in the ordinances, which are important, but maybe not a priority. So Sosha very helpfully put things into a nice graphic that, so there's some of it's like flooding, so the overlay maps, updating the overlay maps is one category, and the rest really fall under revising or creating new ordinances related to land use, related to applications, processes, approvals that integrate necessary considerations of the impacts of sea level rise, increased storms, erosion, flooding, and needed adaptation relief related to land use design and siting. So including providing relief to existing structures and setting standards for new construction. So that's where the bulk of, I think, the priority will be. And then we also talked about some of them relate to the comprehensive plan, which is going to be updated
So
some point in the near future, I guess.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem
Soon.
so some of that is just making sure the language in the new comprehensive plan is updated and clarified and
We'll definitely ask for a seat at the table for the play, when the plan, that we'll have one or two people who, from this committee, who'll be part of that team.
Yeah.
So that what we are interested in is accommodated. Because like, once again, we want it to appear in the plan so we can ask for funding for it. So,
yeah. And one thing we thought we should do, which we haven't done yet, is to kind of go back to the existing comprehensive plan and where there are things that we were supposed to be doing, that maybe we haven't.
Yeah.
Yes.
The chart and the, it's very good. Yeah, the
Yeah.
chart in the back of that, have you seen that? It's
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Sort of,
Pull it
it's a very good,
Yes.
Please.
it's a very good, it's a very good spreadsheet for all of those descriptions. What the first go around
Mhm.
years ago in writing that, it was each chapter had its own sort of goals. And then they were in, I think they're in the back in the appendix. Is that right, Allison? Do you remember that? Sosha?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's really. that's
Yeah,
good.
so there's a standalone implementation table at the
Yeah.
end. That's a required element now of comprehensive plans. So we have that. It's like a in an Excel spreadsheet form too,
Right.
to be, utilized as a tool for implementation. But yeah, it just kind of repeats the implementation actions from each of the elements. But we have the committee has already, like, at the beginning of when the committee was established, I pulled all the related, like, relevant action items into your own spreadsheet to work from. So that's something you could start doing as far as getting ahead of the comp plan update process, just going through and see which ones have been implemented, partially implemented, or are they no longer a priority? Do we not want to implement those? Or, starting to come up with new action items you think should be incorporated into the comp plan.
Yeah, and that's actually exactly what I've been working on, is kind of taking the goals from the comp plan.
And eat the mic. You have to eat.
Oh
the
yeah,
mic.
sorry. And also Nigel. The kind of taking goals from the comp plan, from the summary of findings from the municipal resilience program, and then also the hazard mitigation plan. So kind of all three of those, I just put those, yeah, kind of as Allison was saying, just in a spreadsheet
Make
all
that
together,
spreadsheet,
and then
yeah.
started to organize where actions that are already taking place are connected to the goals, whether it's already done, like those kind of things. So
Right, update.
I'm
Mhm.
still kind of working on that, but I plan to share it with you guys soonish. So, yeah.
Right. Another thing, I just have a question, if I may, Judy.
Yes.
Maybe for, I guess for Anne and Allison and for Saoirse, how deep did you go into any kind of writing of or thinking about relief for a homeowner, an existing homeowner, in terms of relief from zoning standards for example, moving a house back off the cliff and getting some relief from the setbacks?
That is done on Nantucket,
Yeah.
and that's something I want to push for.
Yeah, we did discuss it. I don't, we haven't gotten so far as, making specific recommendations and
Mhm.
language for
Okay.
that, but we talked about kind of the process that would be needed to get there.
Okay.
And that's a really good suggestion. Yeah. So we want to make sure we capture that. Yeah.
It just sort of comes up for me in my mind. Sorry to keep talking, Judy, if I may.
No, please.
It just comes up for me when I think of a plan for our summer community outreach. Then homeowners are getting concerned that are very vulnerable to bluff erosion. And some of the homes that are vulnerable have been there for over 100 years. These are not new homes that built in harm's way. Thank you.
Okay, Jean-Louis, yes.
I'd like to add something is,
And you have to get really close.
in the new construction, what is done to slow down the changement of climate? Like if you build a 5,000 square foot house with a cooler inside, you are speeding up the erosion. So what is the balance between preserve the house who are on the close to the bluff, and what is done to slow down what is happening, because
Right.
everybody is responsible. So if you have a house 100 years old, the case is, of course, you have a 2,000 square foot. You don't impact too much the environment, but when you have 5,000 square foot, you show up at the airport with a plane, you get everything delivered on the island, you build up the erosion. So how we get involved on that? Because for me, it's like if there is no counterpart of preserving the island physically, but also in the future slow down the use of energy and all of this, what is our role to do that?
I'll take a stab at it, but I'm happy to have anyone else. I view our role as advocacy. And so I'm not gonna, I don't think we're the people who are gonna say you can't build a 5,000 square foot house because it's gonna contribute to climate change. I don't see that happening on Block Island actually for quite some time, but we can advocate ways that people can adopt that will reduce their contribution to climate change. And that's just me being my usual positive self, trying to find a positive spin and how to sort of seduce people into being good people. But anyway, those are just my sort of random thoughts to answer that. I welcome anyone else's input.
I have to support that because if nothing else, if we were to mandate, we immediately set ourselves up for lawsuits. And everybody knows that.
Yep.
So maybe the focus should be on public land because
Yes,
instead of private land.
correct.
I mean, all the research, all the grant to support the slowdown of the erosion should be uniquely for now, I believe, in public land and the town, the state,
Right. So for example, what the town is considering right now for the funding that they're receiving from Orsted is related to how do we make buildings more climate resilient, which includes climate responsible. So, and they're looking right now, I know, at the old Coast Guard station and how to keep that going in a climate responsible way, but also make it more resilient. So I know that we can, in particular, focus on what the town is doing and on public lands, yes. Yeah. Thank you. Jean-Louis and I, the report on the data side, Jean-Louis and I are going to get together on Friday at 1. Nora, are you available on Friday at 1? You're welcome to join us. We're going to brainstorm about what we want on the town website for the Coastal Resilience Committee. And so if you're available, that would be great for you to be there since since I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm all content and no process on that. No substance on the website side, only on the science side. How about any of the other working groups? Carlos, yes, good.
I guess I would have two different ones. One is Conservation Commission. I think Laurel and Amanda have been trading dates back and forth to set the September-October joint meeting. So that's the last I heard that's a process in motion. And my next is on ETIP, and Anne asked me to keep it gentle, so I will. So on May, and I have a written statement. Do y'all ever take statements for the record?
I think everything's for the record. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A written statement, maybe I can, because some of this is handwritten and
Oh, sure.
arrows and
Oh,
numbers, and it looks like this.
Oh, yeah. If you could clean it up, I'd be happy to take it. But and we could, I guess, append it to the minutes. Is that how you do it? I don't know what the process is. I'm sorry. For how do we accept something for the record? Like how the town council takes, letters and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I can just make a note that things might have been fleshed out.
Right, and you can send it to Laurel.
Okay.
And then she'll if you send it to the clerk's office, then so that they're the avenue for that way we make sure they have it, because it's really to the town
Okay.
and we're just
Although this is also directed at y'all as individual homeowners and stakeholders in the utility district.
I'm so sorry, I missed that meeting, sorry.
Don't worry, I'm about to brief you.
Okay.
So it was on May 20th. The presentation is available on the town's YouTube channel. I'm not sure how much of the back and forth it captured. I haven't finished reviewing it because a lot of people were speaking, myself included, from the audience without going back and forth to the mic. So on May 20th, Peter Kappers of the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab did his last public presentation of his findings in the ETIP process, which started with an application to the Department of Energy from John Warfel, Commissioner of the Block Island Utility District, and it counted with a letter of support from the then Sea Level Rise Committee. So that's how it's directly germane to y'all. Peter's first public introduction of ETIP was at the Utility District meeting of November 13th of 2023. At that time, it's worth noting that ETIP stood for Energy Transitions Initiative Partnership Program, but now it is called Energy Technology Innovation Partnership Project, but it's the same thing. In broad strokes, the idea was to investigate renewable energy resources to increase the island's resilience, thinking about two dimensions. One is outage from the undersea cable and/or substations in the mainland, and also to avoid using diesel generation. So Peter and the Island Institute partners came again to the island on February 6th and 15th of 2024 and did Grid 101 teach-ins. You may recall that the February 6th meeting was during the regularly scheduled slot of the Sea Level Rise Committee. Peter repeated the Grid 101 teach-in this past May. In April of last year, the utility district set the scope of what the program would actually study. And this was further restricted at some point, and this became obvious during the presentation. And a lot of the back and forth was teasing out the assumptions within the study. One was that there would be no investigation of wind-based energy resources, that only rooftop solar for non-utility structures, both residential and commercial, would be looked at, so no ground-mounted residential. And then there would be a look at community-based ground-mounted solar on available lands. And they were very meticulous about teasing out what land was actually available, including zoning setbacks, lands under conservation, and what have you. Even with these caveats or restrictions, rooftop and community solar could meet all of the island's energy needs. And this was a finding in what Peter found. In fact, community solar could actually generate 140 megawatts. And one way to think about this is an instant, a snapshot, the way megawatts and energy work. You're not looking at over the day or over the week or over the hours, that instant. Can you generate 140 megawatts? And rooftop residential solar can generate up to 9.5 megawatts if we were to use all the available. Now, that is because he reminded us, this Grid 101, that the supply of energy always has to equal the demand for energy. So if you don't have that, we get a blackout and things blow up and we end up spending lots of money. So the analysis that Peter did began with a load forecast. In other words, trying to figure out how much energy are we going to actually need. And he used two scenarios. One is under current rates of growth, and another one meeting different standards that are more aggressive, like Rhode Island has some very aggressive targets. And so he did load forecasts based under those scenarios. And what's really key, I thought, he based the evaluation of the inclusion of community-based or residential solar on just meeting that load. So you may remember I mentioned that, and this was something I verified with him at the end of the meeting. You may I just mentioned that community-based solar could generate up to 140 megawatts, but he only looked at it for well under that because of just looking at the load. Now, what's important about that is that, yes, at any one point, you can only have enough energy feeding into the system that meets the load. You can't have any excess. And in part is because of the agreement we have with the cable. The cable's agreement prohibits the island from sending any energy back to the grid. So if we were to generate all the energy in the world for us and then some, we can't send any back to the mainland. But that's part of an agreement. That's part of a policy that was set. In other words, it can be changed. Now, if you were to, let's say, go well under the 140 megawatts or 9.5 megawatts of residential, right? And say, let's say 20, that doubles the total load. It is conceivable that you could have robust batteries that would soak up that excess energy. Because the one thing that Peter pointed out, and again, coming back to the fact that that 140 or 10 or whatever number of megawatt that you throw out, it's based on an instant. So it's not based on, I have 140 megawatts now and I'll have that later. No. And as we all know, when the sun doesn't shine, there is no solar. And so you could conceivably be soaking that up into batteries to then feed them back. So you could have, let's say, 10 megawatts that are meeting all of the island's energy needs, and another 10 that are being stored for when the sun's not shining. One of the other things that's important to consider is that in his study, Peter assumed current state of technology. And if you've been paying any attention whatsoever to battery technology, you know that it's changing rapidly. And it's, you know, there's different types of batteries, and it's getting, you know, better and better. Now, with the current policy in DC, who knows how that is going to turn out, but at least we know, at least worldwide, that technology is advancing rapidly. So again, the storage for the was only evaluated based on the existing load, right? So in July, next month, it turns out, Peter will send to the utility district a written, more technical report. And I think that's worth looking into. One point that he did make, and this is where we're going to get into a little bit of controversy, is that to get the necessary level of adoption of solar, the utility district has to make a deliberate effort. He used that word, a deliberate effort. In other words, you have to encourage, actively encourage the adoption of further solar on island. Now, some of you may know there is a debate on island about the current policy. And ETIP did not address whether the current policy, the acronym is BASA, buy all, sell all. Peter did not address whether that was the best policy to encourage solar. And the debate is that some solar providers on island say it's not a good policy, that it doesn't encourage solar. The utility district maintains that it's a revenue neutral policy that is good. So that's important to note that there was no evaluation of policy. Now, this is a question that unfortunately the current president and board of commissioners do not wish to address, other than by saying that this 3-year-old policy was the result of many, many discussions. One commissioner recently even went so far as to say that they did not want to see this as an agenda item ever again. I think that this is deeply unfortunate, as well as the way it was handled. And if whoever's interested, I can go into chapter and verse of what I thought was a really poor process. So, and it's not helped by headlines like in the Block Island Times saying BIUD responds to attacks. That's just not helpful. So keep your eyes peeled for July. I think this is a crucial discussion. We don't think about energy until it's out. And, you know, for right now, this November, we will actually finally be 100% renewable. We are not right now. We still have the Shell contract, as far as I can tell. So we're still being powered mostly by natural gas, which, as you know, is a greenhouse gas emitter. So in November, a new contract comes in, But as you know, contracts come and go. And one of the sort of devil in the detail, if you will, was that some of these contracts are, you commit yourself to buy a certain amount of energy, no matter what, whether you're going to use it or not. So when you have a contract like that, and you need to cut back on some of the excess energy that's getting generated, guess who you're going to cut? And that's what Peter said. The first in line to be cut are the residential solars. And finally, another reason why I think also I agree that this buy all, sell all policy needs to be evaluated and discussed properly is that when you make a major investment to install residential solar, but yet when there's a blackout because of the way you've structured the grid here, you're also blacked out, even though you're generating the energy you need. So anyways, thank you so much. I think this is, again, something to keep watching very closely. And I can answer any questions. I took a lot of notes.
I could be the poster child for why you should put solar on your roof, because my energy bill from the Block Island Power Company this month was negative. It has been several times. And so is my mother's. I didn't have any bills to pay this month, so it's pretty sexy. I like that. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just offering myself.
But that's a good one, because when was your solar installed?
A year ago.
Okay, so that's important to look at, because there's two solar policies on island. One is a grandfathered policy, and then there's the more recent one that's about 3 years old.
Okay,
So-
yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. George, you were going to say something.
I was just shocked because when I looked at putting solar on our house, it didn't make any sense to do that. And this was just 2 years ago. I mean, in our view, because it would have been a 15-year payout.
Right. Anyway, yeah, we can talk more offline.
Yeah, so how you managed to go, that's amazing. Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on, because I really want us to hear from Nora. Our next agenda item is the presentation of the Block Island Climate Hotspot Story Map draft, but also, want to hear about what Nora's been working on. And so please go ahead and share your screen. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Make sure I can, yes, I'll talk loudly. Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to share my story map that I've been working on the last, and I have these papers, if you would like some more info, that I've been working on the last couple weeks, that I just recently shared with Judy and Sosha and Valerie, and Anne, and kind of just wanted to show you guys my thoughts, the kind of motivation of why I made this, and then also kind of touch on Coastal Institute and what they talked about on Friday, and kind of how can we mesh this all together. So basically, just as I started in this role, I really wanted to put what has already been worked on, what you guys have worked on, what's possibly coming down the pipeline all together to really have a better place to send people as like a public facing website to start to kind of share what Block Island is doing to work on these issues and build more resiliency. And so that's kind of one part of my motivation. I think just myself jumping into this world 2 months ago of wanting to have some organization for what I see is happening, what has happened, and then also in the hazard mitigation and flood management plan, like we were talking with Allison, this is actually an action item was already by the town, was making a story map to list these various places that Block Island is focusing on in terms of hotspots. Oh, and Mary was there too, I was realizing. Sorry. And so yeah, some additional points that I wanted to bring up. I guess I can do that as I show you guys, but I'm not going to go through it too detailed. But as you'll notice, it is very similar to the Coastal Institute story map that they shared briefly on Friday. That is not live yet. And I did chat with them a little bit afterwards and just kind of thinking about how to use the work that they've really spent a lot of time on and the work that I worked on this in terms of how to like really mesh those things together and kind of think of ways to collaborate with them in a way that feels good to the committee, feels good to me, feels good to the Coastal Institute as well. And so this is kind of what I have so far in terms of the story map, and you'll see it's not totally finished, but just a little bit on kind of setting the scene a little bit using this graph from one of the GZA slides to kind of give a little more context on what exactly we're talking about here. Why does this matter, right? What is happening in the next couple of years, in the next, forecasted to motivate us wanting to make these changes. And then kind of going back through, again, very similar to Coastal Institutes, but of really these kind of various hotspots around the island and what has already been done to work on these places, and then what, is our outlook and our focus moving forward, and the towns as well. And so you can see a little bit, if you kind of click on these individually, but Corn Neck Road, right? So a little bit about that. And I tried to include as many links as I could, specifically like town documents, to really bring it back to what the town has put as their goals, right? What is the town has set as these objectives. And so whether it's back to this resiliency study in 2017 or referencing some of the work that GZA has been doing, I tried to also include some links for where people could actually go and find these recordings themselves. So say someone finds this, goes to the story map and then is like, oh, well, I want to learn more, and is able to actually jump into those meetings themselves. So things like here's that GZA survey as well. So really want to just kind of share these different spots, and obviously you guys can spend more time looking at them, but kind of really also wanted to think about that take action part, and you won't see that on every single one, but on how can someone, if they are focused on this area or learning about this area, how can they help out? And just often you'll see attending Coastal Resiliency Committee meetings, but also CoSNAP, things like that, really just wanting to focus on as well, like other partnerships that we have going on. So I have a place here where I'm going to kind of connect with the women from URI that are doing that study about marsh migration. So here's Bridgegate Square, North Light a little bit. Again, some of those are a little bit, take action here is really just stay away from seals and stay off the dunes. So kind of, just kind of trying to build in ways that people, that whether they're visitors for the day or renters or obviously full-time island residents, how they can learn more about what action has already been taken. And so then wanted to just kind of show you the end here, which is, so West Beach. And then the last one here is just kind of a connection and something that we can really build on. Is I know there's been reference and talk of thinking about how do we make homeowners and island residents or even renters, of course, more have more resources and tools for building or planning or even knowing your locations, susceptibility to sea level rise and erosion and things like that. So really just kind of adding in some various other tools that people can look at, and then referring, of course, to the flood mitigation, the hazard mitigation plan as well. The end here is,
and maybe
really,
can I interrupt you just
Yeah.
for a second? Maybe this is where some of the stuff that Jean-Louis was discussing, what we could add to that, what can you do, like recycle and
Yeah.
use the compost and, some of the stuff that, buy an electric car, whatever we decide we want to put in there that we're advocating for adjusting to climate change.
Yeah, no, I think I'm definitely like very open to any ideas in terms of what we can add to this. And I think especially until the Coastal Institute story map and our website part, the Block Island website part of that goes live. I think just having this avenue of this place for resources and kind of just a hub for, links to other things, and just generally trying to compile the information online, like, Socia was saying that Nantucket does so well. And so yeah, this is the end of the story map here, but just again, another link towards if people are actually gonna want to come and come to our meetings, and then also a link for just a Google form to give feedback, and I kind of mentioned that a little bit there, but that getting feedback and then being able to make those changes to the website or bring them to the committee and be like, oh, people gave this feedback as a kind of more general matter. And so just finding a way to have more avenues for the public to learn what you guys and the town have been working on, as well as kind of build on it as we continue to make more meetings and things like that. The last thing I wanted to say is I just kind of referenced it a little bit on my sheet here. But I think, there's lots of ways that we can share this with the public. I can make, this QR code gets you to the website. But also I think making like laminated papers and things like that, putting in various places. Me and Judy have spoken about the sound waves ad that we are kind of trying to think a little bit about what that could look like. And so just wanted to share that too. Is very, very much a draft, but also just thinking about kind of the sound waves ad and what that might look like, which is that basically 15 seconds before the movies get played on whatever that is, those movies that they play on the beach, that this will be up. Something like this could be up for 15 seconds. And so trying to think of ways to, have people start talking about this stuff, and then be able to scan the QR code and jump into the map so they could learn more if they wanted to. So again, that was really brief and overarching view of what I've been thinking about, but I think really in connection to what I talked about a little bit earlier, just this idea of trying to take all these projects, organization, things that have already even, been done, like a comp plan goal of the 2016 comp plan is to make the committee that we are at now. So I think things like that we recognize have already even been done, but also present, and then in the future, like goals, even lofty things, is really what I'm trying to kind of organize on an Excel spreadsheet to really think about that timeline. And I know we've talked about in terms of the Nantucket timeline, and that just being like an amazing aspect to some of their materials, of just having a kind of bigger, broader idea of goals, and then even what triggers potential more action, right? If we notice this happening, what's the potential action that we've already thought about to get to that point? And that's kind of something I think about with like the managed retreat stuff and stuff like that. So that's an additional thing, but kind of also framed my thinking in terms of this story map. So yeah.
So
First of all, what you're not hearing or seeing the benefit of is her beautiful narrative style and writing about making all these points. It's very user friendly, and I can't underscore that enough. Secondly, when I look at websites for Nantucket and Vinyl Haven, they list specific projects or documents in different parts. You are coordinating all of that into one space, and you are focusing on the problem areas of the island. They don't do that. You see? So I think that by focusing on the problem areas and then jumping off from those, people will relate more and see the bigger picture. So I think it's just wonderful, and it has limited possibilities in terms of what you can add to it as you go. But I think this is top notch.
I agree. And I'm excited to see what happens when we get together with the Coastal Institute, because the Institute theirs has a different purpose than ours. And so it's more a matter of, if they have something really cool in theirs that we want to add to ours, and just coordinating them back and forth. I don't think, after speaking with you earlier, I think initially that's the way we need to go. I don't think we want to combine them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this gives us a lot more ownership over it, right? I
Yes.
think, my having ownership over it, and recognizing that, we can make quick little edits or changes and things like that. But certainly I think adding in linking to even the GZA website that Allison was talking about, and also to Coastal Institute.
And didn't you also mention that you want the public to have an opportunity to respond or?
Yeah, so that's like down at the bottom. So if you want to give any feedback or anything like that,
Right.
it goes to it goes to
Right.
a Google form, so that it makes it, so I can respond, I can look at that, and then either make changes or bring things to the committee and be like, oh, everyone's saying this, or there's a big,
Right.
And did you?
Yeah, just a couple of comments and questions. I think it's great as well, and I think serving that purpose of educating the public, like this is really a great way to do it, the visual map and all that. So will this live, is the idea that it will live on the Nature Conservancy site? and-
Yeah, so this is like kind of what it. Bounce over. Okay, yeah. So this is currently like what the coastal resiliency part of the Nature Conservancy website looks like. This website and the file sharing were Glenny
Right.
made them. And so that tab, coastal resiliency on BI is just what I called it, but that would be where it would be stored in the future it's not, you can't see
Okay.
it because it's
Well,
private.
well,
It's-
it's-
yeah, it could get you there. Yeah, it's not live right now, but the idea would be that the QR code would take you directly
Mhm.
to, that Nature Conservancy.
And then,
No. Well, the QR code it's confusing. The QR code is live to the ArcGIS story map, but then I will put the story map onto the website and that part is not live now. So you can see the story map. That all is live. It's just not linked to the Nature Conservancy website, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It's definitely live.
Yes, yeah, it's live. Yeah.
just
you
a
can
couple of suggestions. I mean, I think the take action part, like those will probably be updated,
Mhm.
I would think.
Yeah.
We can add to those
yeah.
regularly and
Yeah.
revisit. I agree with adding if there's a way to incorporate some of those GZA
Mhm.
maps, because
Yeah.
I think some of that analysis and data is really great to get out there. But also with the upcoming, this isn't, these don't exist yet, but maybe connecting to some of the Rhode Island state level
yeah,
stuff, like,
yeah.
they're coming up with a new climate action strategy and a new coastal resilience plan. So once those are in place, then I think maybe we can pull from those some actions and some, you know,
Yeah.
references that we want to feature. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
awesome.
good.
Nigel.
So this is probably a controversial thought, but there've been we get, members of this committee get asked questions about what can we do about my own personal problem, my bit of eroding bluff, my whatever. And there are a number of examples now on the island of people who've taken individual actions. Quite a few of which have been, I would say, a waste of money, some of which we can't really say much about, some of which have worked well. And I think, maybe we need to start sort of thinking about at least sharing the things that work in the places where they've worked and the things that don't work in the places where they haven't worked. And I just sort of want, if we're trying to reach the public, but we're not actually giving the public much real information in terms of things to do and what they might do, I think we're sort of failing in at least part of our job. And I just wonder if this would be a way of trying to do something. There's a lot of coir logs that have been put up that are floating around in the ocean from places on the island. There's snow fencing that has been put up on the West Beach several times and has done nothing. But the snow fencing was put up on Scotch Beach, which did a wonderful job. And it's a matter of choosing your place because you've got knowledge about sand transportation and that sort of stuff.
I think that's great, Nigel. We should be tracking these projects. So we can relate it to other people and understand it better ourselves. Yeah. Who else other than us?
Are there coastal ones?
Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Also, even just knowing more about private projects that have happened, and I can think about that, adding that to my spreadsheet of projects, because I think that's a great point. Is there are examples of things that have worked really well, and that if people are searching for there should be some place to get the resources. Whether it's huge projects that are like Corn Neck Road or smaller projects. That I think people could learn from, because I think that's a good.
Yeah, just it would also be nice to get over the message to the population that our beaches depend upon bluff erosion. It's such an important point And, you know, if we harden all our bluffs, we're going to lose all our beaches. And, you know, it's all very well for people to say, you know, my house is getting nearer and nearer the edge. I've got to do something. But, you know, you have to think awfully hard about the consequences of these things.
Yes.
I'm a little bit confused about when you are saying we should look at the private impact of the way people try to block the erosion, because see, if you have the erosion is always almost in the public space, because the erosion is on the bluff. Like
Oh, no, no.
So, but there is a very clear line we can be described.
Well, we've had bluff modification right down to the water line on just north of Scotch Beach that was approved. So we have examples of mitigations, bluff mitigations all around the island. For example, that's the bluff part, not the beach mitigation, but we have examples that we could point to. Some, for example, the effort over by the Catholic Church Parish House has, I mean, there's two houses there that that was a terrible, I mean, they didn't do anything to stop the erosion. And then, but I mean, we have examples around that people can look at, but I also agree that our message isn't that the town is going to do a whole bunch of work with you to save your house. That's not what we're going to do. And I've been really clear with people about that when they say, "What are you going to do to help me save my house?" Well, I'm not going to do anything. And the town probably won't do anything except come down out and condemn it. But if you want to see what you can do,
Well, that's where, you know, tracking the CRMC, which I'm tracking the permits, we can perhaps add all those projects, if you're willing, to your picture map. Here's where the projects have been done and here's what they were, as a reference for everybody. Because you can get a lot of information. They will send you the information, I mean, packets of information on the design of the projects and when they were approved and that kind of
and
thing.
it's all public.
It's all public.
Yeah.
You just have to track it down.
And that would fit right into Nigel's comment of.
Right, exactly. So here it is. So the Coir Log projects here, here's where they were, here's where the Bluff project was. Here are the pending projects. Right now, there aren't any pending ones. That's why I haven't heard from me on that. We haven't had any new ones coming up.
You get overtime pay for that?
But on a map like that, it would be huge.
I agree.
I think that's really.
I'm happy to give myself a little more work because I'm going to be, it'll be shared effort.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, so right now, Glennie has been combing through the comprehensive, did I say call you Glennie? I did that. earlier. Nora has been, sorry.
I thought, what?
Yeah,
Let's combine your names for
Yeah,
just another
see,
week,
yeah.
and then we'll get to Norma.
Nornie,
Lenora.
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 It's actually a pretty name. Anyway, Nora has been combing through like the comprehensive plan and all the places that where Allison was just talking about, where and you and Mary were talking about, where you have the lists of the activities and what have we done and what haven't we done. So I mean, she's really doing a lot more behind the scenes that, and this fits right into I think the final output that we want to provide to the public. I think, Nigel, I think this is a great idea. And so Nigel and George, who are the vocal folks on this, do you want to work with Glennie on pulling this together?
We do not. We want to work with Nora. I stand, that's my position on it. We're working with Nora, not Glennie.
By the way,
That's really embarrassing.
it's okay.
I didn't. I'm just like, whoa.
There is one place, though, that the town does have power to do something and should do something, and that is changing ordinances.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay?
And that's our job on the ordinance side.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know you had mentioned, Judy, there's nothing the town will do, but that's not true.
Yes.
It's really the ordinance work that's really important. But Glennie, thank you for doing this. It's like on the inside, a door just opened, a concert hall just opened to put it all together, have a place to put it all together. I appreciate everybody's comments too. Makes me think of a few things. I have to go through it again, Nora, because it's been a while since we talked about it. But it made me think of just a few things, just quickly. I like the idea of the map. I'm always seeing it really like a different map, like a map that we see every day in our lives, with the trees and houses and whatnot. And like Kim there in a little bubble giving a talk on hydrology or planting the dunes with kids, just to bring in that interactive existing community experience that exists, I think will help bring more people in. Right now, it's a format that sort of we're used to seeing, which is not a bad thing, nor it's great. It just makes me want more, which is says you've done a lot, which is great. And then another thought I had, yeah, I like the idea of people having an opportunity to participate in the discussion, because in a way, this is easy for us to attach to a Facebook page or Instagram where people are used to commenting. So it's always good to
yeah.
meet people where they are, as you know. So that's also a benefit for this. And to weave in that, I think it's really important too, sort of getting back to this image of the map as something, I don't know, that feels more textural, that we're used to seeing, again, with local authorities or local knowledge, like the tide gauges with Nigel and Judy and the dune work that people have been doing. If you have somehow that story in there, and Kim, everybody knows Kim's planting the dunes with the kids, and somehow I just sort of
Yeah.
want to see that on the map, just to encourage more people to come together with us, because we all see the same thing. I think Scott said it well the first day of your interview. How are you going to feel when people bump into you in the post op and ask you questions? And he brought up a really good point. The simple thing is we all recognize Bimini floods more frequently. And so if we can just get some more of those real common images on there, that would be helpful, I think. I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
So I have a question.
Okay.
Nora,
Yes.
when is this going to go public?
It's up to you guys.
it's
I mean,
ready.
I think I can make as many changes as necessary, and then basically whenever we feel like it's necessary, or whenever we feel like we want to, and then again, I can share it various ways, and we can talk about the best ways to share it, and how we want to get this information out there.
Shouldn't we put this on the bulletin board
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
as a start, and explaining to them that this is a beginning,
Yeah.
this is not final, and this is a living document?
And the bulletin board, the Black Island Times, maybe we can get it in the summer times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The QR code, yeah.
Also, I don't know if this is possible. I'm always advocating for more languages in the document so that we have more people, like we have
that'd be
a
great.
high Spanish speaking population here. Yeah. This,
I think I found a couple, but I
Can I,
you
is it okay
can
with
come
you
back
guys,
and
I
you
should
should.
wrap this up just so that we can move on to the
your
rest of our agenda. Yeah, okay, make them short, because we only have 15 minutes, but I have a half hour before we look this stuff. Okay.
All right.
We are leaving at 4:30.
So I think this is awesome. This is really, really great. One thing for all of y'all to remember is the QR codes take you to the site, so you can be continually improving
Yes.
and iterating, and that code will continue as long as you have that link intact. I wanted to bring up, I thought Mary's comments on the different types of stories to weave in, and Nigel's and George's comments about where things work and where they don't. I think that's all brilliant stuff. And they can be incorporated into maps, story maps. You could say, what has worked, what hasn't worked, where are we going? And each of those is the same map of Block Island, but you have different points. You could have pictures, reports, whatever. I would like y'all to think about the idea of maybe distributing postcards. I thought the sound waves picture or something like that with the QR code with a very simple message. It is not a complicated process. It is not an expensive process. And you can do I've checked this out for other reasons at the post office. You can do a mail to every post office box. So that's including, that includes all the second home dwellers.
We could do like rack cards. There's a lot of racks around on the island where you can put a card to advertise a business or whatever, but we could do rack cards.
You can ask the Block Island Residents Association to mail out the information, distribute at Blues on the Beach, Mary D. Ball, where you're going to get the local population, and then Farmers Market. Block Island Conservancy has a stand. I know they'd be happy to. Well, I can't speak for them, but I would imagine they'd be happy. And some vendors, some individual vendors, I'm sure would be happy to include a postcard with this information. And you'll have the budget.
Good. Yeah, I thought farmer's market too. That's great.
Good idea.
Thank you. Okay, I am gonna
Yes.
move on the agenda. Right now, I have two letters. One that I would like your approval to send on to the town. They will, of course, make them their own, make the letters their own. These are drafts. But one is a letter of support for, can you hand them to me to make sure I say the right thing? Yeah, they're the two with those two with the rocks on the top. Yeah, so, and I've cleaned them up a little bit, but requesting full federal funding of the National Estuarine Research Reserve System. These are the folks who helped us get established out here. They told us where we could get funding. They helped us organize into little working groups and they helped us, literally get established. And they have their training. They've come back and trained us actually several times. This is Caitlin and Jen West. I can't remember Caitlin's last name. Chafee, thank you. How could I forget that? The other one is a letter of support to the Northeast Regional Association of Coastal Ocean Observing Systems, NERACOOS, because they are the ones who bought the optical water level sensor at the dock. So if I can to get a motion to approve that I will move forward with these draft letters to the town. It's up to the town whether I have to take it to the town and they have to decide if they want to write something.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Congratulations on putting these together. Very nice.
Oh, thank you. And I'll give these back to Ian. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so any other discussion?
No.
Just,
Go ahead.
you are talking about the sensor. So is it, for example, the sensor will be on your map?
Oh, we could, the sensor, we could put a link to NERACOOS. Yeah.
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 And I'm sure there is more. But we can,
Oh, yeah, we're gonna keep coming up with stuff for sure. Okay, okay, so thank you. Oh, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we have exactly 10 minutes to figure out what we're gonna do in the summer. Planning for the summer. So I have, we all have ideas and so I'd like to hear from you. One idea that I'd like to get out right now is that we put together a small group that will plan whatever we're going to do this summer, and that we use our July meeting as a work session to involve the full committee in the planning. So we get a small group together to get it going, And then in July, we spend our July meeting really
Good idea.
getting everybody on board and then we do it for our August meeting, that we do an event of some kind. That the dates for the event can change. We have plenty of time. But right now, July 1st is the date for our July meeting, and August 5th is our August meeting. So that was just an idea. I just wanted to put that out there. That's more structural than it is, what we're going to do. And so what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, open for discussion. We have 7 minutes.
All right, I'll start.
Okay.
Ann and I went birding this morning. And I go, Ann, have you thought about a summer activity? I can't think of one. After about 10 minutes of laughing about that, Ann brought up a very good idea, and that is GZA is going to be doing their next public presentation. What if we coordinate right on the same day with them? They do their thing the first hour or whatever that is, then we have a break and refreshments. And then we follow it up with having tables around the room where each table has a focus, maybe even a question. Tables could be about how to protect your home, construction ideas, anything having to do with a whole table just to focus on storm tool use, the how to. And have this committee then plan which topics each of those tables should cover, so that people can travel around the room and interact. And that was about it, right? That's what we came up with. And I don't think it has to happen during the summer. I was thinking early September or so. We don't want so much the day trippers as we want the cottagers still, who will be here at that time. The summer workload prohibits a lot of people from investing a whole day. So I say, a day or a morning, even a morning, I say wait until after Labor Day to have the event, but I don't know when GCA is going to do their next public
We'll
meeting.
Find out tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's where we're standing on it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Saoirse. We've talked about that before, of breaking up the room, say in Bimini, into, say, 5 tables of 10 people, and each table has this very specific subject. They get 10 minutes to talk at each table, and then they move from table to table to table. Love the idea. I've always loved that idea. I like also revisiting Ann's idea from like a year ago when we came up with this proposal for community outreach for the stakeholders. And at that time, I think the whole committee didn't support it because we just weren't ready. I think we're ready now. So if we could refresh you on that in July, that would be great. And I'm concerned about a very long meeting. It can turn people away.
Yeah. Thank you. Carlos.
I would like for y'all to consider my presenting you in July 1st with a plan of how the postcard thing could work with costs, participation, distribution, all that.
For Coast Guard.
Postcard
Oh,
with the
postcard.
QR code for
It's like
the land, for the,
Boy, I really do have to get my hearing checked, as well as my eyes, but in my brain.
I'd like to work with Glennie on that.
You would need no permission from us to do that. And and I'm happy, I'm not the most visual person. I mean, I'm very visual, but I'm not the most artistic person in the room, but I'm pretty good on the messaging. So I'm happy to work with you on that. Okay. So I would say that this is an activity for our public outreach and community engagement team. And we will get back, that team will get back to you. Maybe even before July, if we need to. Yeah. But
Maybe just one, so my mother chimed in on this conversation this morning, and I thought she had an interesting idea of a location, which was Town Beach Pavilion.
Oh,
So if the GZA presentation is part of it, maybe just also people
Yeah.
see what they're talking about.
We could bring it there.
I
And they
think you
can-
could ask Josh and
Yeah,
Meg
say Josh and bring
about
these.
that. Yeah.
yeah, you can do it with a hotspot, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Her rationale was have it where the problem exists.
Definitely. And there's food.
Oh, nice. I like that. I'm gonna type,
Yeah, that's our break.
I like that, have it where the problem exists. Okay. So I think, did I miss anything? Letters upcoming, okay, so July, August, we're gonna do something with the Conservation Commission in September or October. So we've got, a pathway laid out. And lots to do in between, lots of the, working group jobs. Looking at everybody. And, so, can I hear a motion to adjourn? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we close the meeting.